Uncut, uncensored. Welcome to COASTER-net Uncut.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to COASTER-net Uncut, the first show of 2016. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, the 2015 season has been put to bed, and we are now in the brand new year with all the hopes and dreams of the future ready to go. We are in 2016, and indeed tonight we are going to be discussing the new rides of 2016. But before we get to that, let's introduce ourselves. I am, of course, Andrew Barczyk, as always, from Chicago, Illinois, joined once again by Baby New Year himself, Mr. Danny Miller.
Yes, that's right. I'm coming to you from my home in Strecksville, Pennsylvania, not too far from Dorney Park. Probably for the last time in quite a while, I will begin my new job next week up there in the Binghamton, New York area, so I'll be back in New York for quite a while. Starting soon, but I'm excited to get started, and I'm excited to start off 2016 of COASTER-net Uncut. Just like we did last year, we started off 2015 by talking about the 2015 rides and kind of giving our breakdown of what rides we're most excited for, and we're going to do the same thing here today, and we talked about this before the show, and we talked about it last year, where it's kind of a balance between what do we think the best ride is and what are we most excited for because we're actually going to get a chance to ride it. And I think you said it best, it's kind of a sliding scale depending on how good the ride is or how close it is to you or how sure you are that you're going to get to ride it. So I think you'll see when we start getting into our lists here exactly where everything fell. But the new rides of 2016 is what we're going to talk about today.
Absolutely. Now we're only really going to talk about, before the show, Danny and I, we came up with our individual lists. We have already combined those into a single list based on the rankings that we gave it. So there you go. Now we're only going to talk about the top 10 really in detail about what makes us excited about it. But, before we get into that, there's a whole bunch of rides that did not make the top 10 cut. So some of those, include things like Monster at Adventureland, which I'm pretty excited for because I'm almost certain to be going out there to ride that. Sure. It looks like a small little coaster that's going to fit nicely into that park. So I'm excited for that. Total Mayhem was also ranked 17 on the list for us. Just me, there's no chance of me going back to Great Adventure next year.
I'll get to it really early, so that's why I had it a little bit higher, because I know I'm going to ride that, and now I don't have to make a trip down to Fiesta, Texas to ride the ride. I could ride it right in my backyard.
I'd rather go to Fiesta, Texas, personally, but
I won't argue with you there.
And also at 18 was Gale Force. Another smaller roller coaster that's out east that you said you're probably going to ride that one as well, correct?
Yeah, I mean, it's out there on the Jersey Shore. I mean, it's not too far away from me. I can certainly make a weekend trip out of that, maybe hit up Wildwood as well, or even, as a side trip when I take a trip to Great Adventure. I said this before the show, Gale Force is very similar to Phobia Fear Coaster up there at Lake Compounce, and I'm not sure which will be the better ride. I mean, I've ridden Superman Ultimate Flight. I haven't ridden Tempesto yet, but, they're basically the same ride. So, having Phobia being a clone of a ride I've already been on, I'm not as excited for that one, even though it may end up being the better ride. Gale Force is a very similar ride, but it is a little different, and I'm interested to see it's S&S doing it, so I'm interested to see their take on it, and it's only a couple hours away over there in Jersey, so I had that towards the bottom of my list, and number 13 on my personal list, because I know I'll probably find some time on a weekend to get out there and at least give it a shot, because that's a place I haven't been to. I think that Playland Cove, or I don't even know what the actual name of it is, but I'll probably get out there at some point to ride Gale Force, so I did have that on my list.
And then, of course, you mentioned Phobia Fear Coaster at Lake Compounce. That's another one that did not make the cut as well, but is also opening up next year. So let's get into our top 15. Now, at 15, we had a tie between two coasters. and we couldn't really settle the tie, so we just left them both at 15. Very little chance that I will ride either of these two coasters. I find it very little chance that you'll be riding either of these two coasters as well in the foreseeable future. And they are Wildfire at Kolmården and Tron at Disney over in the Far East at Shanghai Disney. So what are your thoughts on these two rides?
Well, and you know what? If either of these rides were in the States, I think they'd have potential to be top 5 rides. I think this is where we see the fact that you and it's going to be a long time before either of us go to either China or Sweden to ride either of these rides. There was a more detailed POV of Wildfire that just came out in like the last week or two, and it looks really, really good. And Wildfire looks like it's basically take Outlaw Run and Lightning Rod and kind of put them together, and that's kind of what you get. I mean, it looks like a bigger version of those two rides. Maybe a little bit of a longer version even, some different inversions. We see the Goliath overhead Top Gun stall or Zero-G stall, whatever RMC's calling it these days, on that ride. And then Tron looks like it's going to be on the same level as your other highly themed Disney e-ticket attractions. So, again, I think Tron specifically, I mean, Wildfire, we kind of have stuff like that over here. We're getting something with Lightning Rod, which we'll talk about in a little bit. A shorter version of a terrain RMC wooden coaster with inversions and Outlaw Run. As far as Tron goes, if it does well over there, maybe that's something we see come to the States in at least one of the two locations. Whether it's Florida or California, we don't know, but there's always been rumblings of a Tron ride at some point. If they ever did a reboot of Tomorrowland or ever did some refurbishment or an expansion maybe. Probably not happening anytime soon with Star Wars coming. But I mean, we'll see what happens with that. But they're both intriguing rides that I think would be higher if they were a little closer to us.
Tron especially, Wildfire, it is what it is. It looks like a really nice ride. Like you said, there's very little chance I'll probably get out there anytime within the next 5 years. But Tron could be a huge miss if they don't do it right either. Now, assuming it's going to be an indoor coaster, it has a lot of possibility of maybe having one of the coolest special effects packages ever done on it. Mm-hmm. But it all depends on how much money they put into it, how well it's going to do. It's going to be a moto coaster where you're sitting on the actual light cycles. Right. Assuming there's going to be a few launches in there somewhere. It has just an immense amount of possibility. It'll be really interesting to see how that one comes out. Because, the problem is even with it coming over to America is that they just recently, put the new Tron movie on hold. They were going to do a Tron 3, and that's been put on hold so far. So who knows where the status of that franchise is within Disney. It's going to do well in Japan because that sort of thing always does well in Japan. The computer video game based idea is going to do well out there.
Movie Pixels.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, 3 people saw it here. Biggest movie in Japan, ever.
Oh man.
So moving on to number 14 is one I think that we're both really excited for, but once again, very little chance of us riding it, and that is Tron. Over at Phantasialand, yes, in Germany. Yeah,
this is this highly themed, or so it seems, this highly themed launch coaster from Intamin. It's been a while since we've seen a big coaster from Intamin, and they've got a couple of them. They're building this Flying Aces ride, I think, over there at Ferrari World, which looks like it's kind of like a souped-up Sky Rush with some inversions.
Yeah.
But this Tron ride looks like it's going to be a really nice coaster. I don't want to say it's a terrain-hugging ride because it really isn't. It's just hugging the scenery that's around it looks like, and it's very twisted and very compact. And it looks like it'll be a nice long ride. So we'll kind of see exactly as it gets closer to opening up what exactly this ride's going to be. I'm not really sure I get this ride just yet, aside from it's going to be a coaster that goes really fast and does a lot of quick turns and maneuvers and some hills. But again, one that if it was in the States or Canada, or a little closer to us, it's probably one that's a little higher on our list. But Fantasialand's, we know it's a fantastic park, has some very nice theming. I mean, if you look at Black Mamba, we've talked about Black Mamba before. We've talked about Colorado Adventure, which is their mine ride. They have a really cool top spin that's highly themed, and that Chiapas log flume that opened up this the last year or two, which is very, very, very long and very well themed. So I'm hoping that this is kind of in the same category in terms of being a good ride that's highly themed.
Yeah, for sure. You know, they are calling it a blitz coaster, so that's exciting because there aren't many blitz coasters out there. So it should be a fun ride. Like I said, very little chance of us getting out there. Number 13 was Mass Effect out at California's Great America. Now, you said that you have no intention of going out west, but I have many intentions of going out west. So
right, this is why this is higher on your list.
Yeah, Mass Effect actually on my personal list was ranked at number 9, and this one seems really interesting to me. That Cedar Fair announced Mass Effect and Plants vs. Zombies both around the same time earlier last year, and but the two attractions couldn't be more different from one another. Whereas the Plants vs. Zombies are going to have this shooting element to it, some sort of interactivity. This Mass Effect, people are saying that it's going to be completely different than that. It's going to be more like how the Terminator 2 show at Universal is being done.
Okay.
So it's going to be supposedly there's going to be some live actors in it. There's going to be 4D elements to it. And it's going to be mainly a theater-based show. So I'm actually really excited to see what that's all about. Now, I'm not a huge fan of Mass Effect. I am a huge fan of science fiction in general. So I think I'm going to like it no matter what happens. And I think it's moving Cedar Fair into a new direction, with this indoor show-based idea. We've already seen them, jump into the dark ride idea that I think all the parks need. And it would be nice to have another indoor option to go to these different parks. And what they're doing most, though, is I like that each park is getting its own flavor, too. So Carowinds is getting Plants vs. Zombies, whereas California's Great America is getting Mass Effect. That if it was just the same attraction put in all the parks, I go to a lot of the parks each year. By doing these separate attractions and completely different themes, it gives that park its own flavor, and it's something I want to do there. Whereas if it was just a Plants vs. Zombies, I'll do it at one park, but if I don't like it, I'm not going to do it at the next park. Where here, I feel compelled to do it no matter what because it's different.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, we talked about this. We'll talk about it probably again in a few short minutes when we get to Justice League. But with the Justice League Dark Ride, it's, people are saying it's a pretty good ride, but I don't feel the need to make a special trip to Six Flags Over Texas or Six Flags St. Louis or Six Flags Great America, because in all likelihood in the next year or two I'm going to get one at Great Adventure here, and I'm going to be able to ride the same exact ride in my backyard and not have to pay to go to those other parks. So, that's kind of the downfall of the copy and paste. It might be cheaper to actually make, but the copy and paste doesn't really give you that rewrite ability across the chain, whereas with Cedar Fair, they're doing the Wonder Mountains Guardian thing in Canada's Wonderland, the Voyage to the Iron Reef thing at Knott's was completely different. The Mass Effect thing is going to be different yet, and Plants vs. Zombies at Carowinds is going to be different yet. And, surely we're hearing, if Cedar Point does end up getting a dark ride type of thing, we're going to see Triotech do something different there. We've heard about it going to other parks, maybe a Dorney, or maybe like a Kings Island would be getting something eventually. I know they've been looking into that, and you would think that it's going to be different at each park, which is the benefit to that. So, like you said, I don't have any intentions of going out to California again in the next couple of years. We did Southern California this past year. We did Northern California in 2014. So it's going to be a few years before I go back out to California. So it's a few years out from when I would actually get to experience this. But we'll see how successful it is. I like to use the term cautiously optimistic, and I'm hoping that this is one that kind of comes in above expectations on that, because then it'll be another reason to go back out there, because aside from Gold Striker and Flight Deck, there's not a whole lot to draw you out to that park. So this could be a nice thing to kind of give them another signature attraction, I think.
Yeah, for sure. Next on the list at number 12 was King Kong at Universal Studios Islands of Adventure. I have nothing to say about this. I didn't even rank it on mine. I could care less. I think it's a terrible idea. So you can talk about this one. I care less.
Yeah, I think this is another one where I'm going to use the term cautiously optimistic. I think it's out of place. I think we can all agree that the King Kong attraction seems a little bit out of place in the Jurassic Park area, especially considering the big success that Jurassic World was, and that this attraction is taking away land that could have been reserved for a Jurassic World attraction. And I think that's where you and I were both hoping that they would go, and that's not what's happening right now. So I'm interested to see what they do with it. I'm interested to see, they're saying that you're going to be in these Jeeps, and it's not going to be quite the same as the older ride that was in the Revenge of the Mud building. So hopefully they do a good job with it. I'm fairly confident that they'll do a pretty good job with it. The question is if it will feel really out of place, and if it will feel like it's done well, and if people get it, because I think that Jurassic Park, Jurassic World is way more popular than the King Kong franchise right now, so it doesn't seem to be quite the right fit. So I put it on my list at number 7 overall, my personal list, because Universal tends to do a pretty good job with these types of attractions. I hope it doesn't feel like it's a stretch, and that they do it. If they do it properly, I think it'll be pretty good. I just hope they get it right, because you were talking when you went out to Universal Hollywood, the Fast and Furious ride to you just didn't seem like they really hit the mark with that, and I'm hoping that it's not that sort of thing, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, it's I didn't actually ride the Fast and Furious ride, but it was not what I think a lot of people thought it was going to be. They thought it would be more like Transformers, and it's not that. It's not that at all. But the one hopeful thing is for the whole situation is that Universal just bought a whole plot of land that's much larger than what they even currently own. So there's plenty of opportunity now for them to build a third park that has an entire Jurassic World section, so maybe they can save themselves by that.
That'd be cool.
So at number 10 then, staying on the Jurassic Park theme, we actually had a tie at number 10.
10 and 11 were tied. So
at 11 we'll say it's Skyhawk. Up at Canada's Wonderland, which I think is going to be a fantastic ride. I'm planning on going back this year to Canada for Coasting for Kids. That's the current plan. So hopefully I'll get to ride this when I'm out there. But I absolutely loved Shell Shock at Nickelodeon Universe at the Mall of America. And I thought it was a fantastic ride. And this one is taking Shell Shock. Like, Shell Shock kind of scared me at some points. Like, there were times I was coming down off the fall, and I was completely upside down for the whole time. And now I'm thinking, oh my goodness, I could be well over 200 feet in the air being upside down as I'm spinning. This thing has a lot of possibilities for it being a really crazy flat rides in what you could arguably say is the craziest collection of flat rides anywhere on the planet at Canada's Wonderland.
Yeah, I mean, they already have a great collection of flat rides. They have Cyclone, they have Sledgehammer, they have Shockwave, which is one of the only top scan in North America that I know of, or permanent top scan. They have Clockworks, which is a disappearing type of, it's called a swing around by Huss. They have a stand-up Enterprise foe, I think is what they call it, called Nightmares. They have their quirky top spin called Riptide. They have a Windseeker, and now they have this thing. And they have a drop tower too. So adding this to the mix is just, stepping up their flat ride game one more time. They have, I think, one of only 2 giant enterprises left as well. So they're really going all out with the flat ride collection up there. They have been for a long time, and this is just adding to that. Basically putting one of those it's called a sky roller, the production name of this, but they're basically putting that shell shock ride and putting it on a drop tower. Now it's not going to drop, but they're putting it on a tower seeker, and that's kind of what it's going to be. So, it should be an awesome ride, and I'm really looking forward to getting back up to Canada's Wonderland as I try to go every year. And I'm really looking forward to giving that a shot.
Now, what's interesting is, there's been some photos that have been coming out from Carowinds as well, showing that they actually have some top scan cars down there, like some ride carriages. So a lot of people are speculating that maybe Carowinds is getting a secret top scan that we don't know about, that hasn't really been officially announced. But, I don't see them, just storing stuff down there for no reason. It had to come from somewhere. So interesting stuff going down at Carowinds. But anyway, on to number 10, which officially starts our list now, is Flying Dinosaur out at Universal Studios Japan. Now, this looks like a really interesting B&M flyer. Quite possibly the best B&M flyer ever. Not a huge not a huge bunch of competition out there for flyers in the world.
Oh, stop
it. So it could basically just be built and walk into the title.
Without having this argument.
I don't know what you're talking about. I'm simply stating that there's not a whole lot of good flyers out there. So, Flying Dinosaur.
There's at least one.
Yeah, you're right. Starry Sky Ripper is pretty cool too.
Oh, stop it. This thing looks awesome, though. I'm looking at pictures right now. This thing looks crazy.
So here, where we thought, Universal Studios should be getting some sort of Jurassic World tie-in, they're actually doing it, but unfortunately, it's in the Far East. It's in Japan. So there's a tie-in out there, but not only is this probably going to be a really highly themed ride that's going to be out of this world, but it's also looks like it's going to be a really great roller coaster as well. Sometimes you get one or the other. But you can't get both. And here you have a situation where I think both paths are going to intersect, and you're going to have both a great roller coaster and a very great themed experience as well. What are you seeing there?
I'm seeing a lot of cool pictures, and I'll tell you what, I really wish this ride was over here, because this was on my personal list. I think I had this at number 11, but it probably would have been in my top 5 had it been over here, and had I known that I'm getting to ride it anytime soon. I mean, look at the first drop. There's a picture on RCDV. It's picture number 8, which it shows the first drop is like almost straight down, and then it curves off to the left and goes into this like triple twist 0G roll where you end up on your back, and then you go into like an Immelman type thing, and then you can't tell right now because they're not done the construction yet as of this picture, but then you like go swooping over the splashdown pool of the Jurassic Park River ride, so you're going to be like on your back or maybe facing down as you go over the water. So they're like integrating it to the landscape of the other Jurassic Park rides, which is just awesome, and what Universal has done pretty well. So I'm really jealous of Japan right now.
Yeah. This is going to be a really cool ride. The colors are amazing. I love the green and the subdued gray. It's just going to fit so well that like the colors actually match like the visitor center there as well, because it has a green thatched roof. So it's just going to be a really well done ride. So like I said, once again, I don't see myself getting over to Universal in Japan, but man, this looks like a really amazing experience. But what are you gonna do? Yeah,
absolutely.
So goes life. moving on to another roller coaster here. At number 9, we had Mako down at SeaWorld Orlando.
Yes.
Now, I had Mako much lower than this. I had Mako personally at about 17. One, because I don't foresee myself going to SeaWorld next year. At all. So, and then Mako in itself, it's a B&M hyper that I'm going to have to hear reports coming out of SeaWorld that it really blows away all the other B&M hypers. Because there's a fairly good collection of B&M hypers out there already, starting with rides like Diamondback. And I just don't see the need to drop some money to go to SeaWorld to ride another one if it doesn't really break the mold. Now, it could go much faster. I don't know how it's actually going to ride on the rails. They keep saying it's going to be a really fast ride. But for all intents and purposes, everything I've seen so far has not gotten me overly excited about Mako.
Yeah, I think Mako is one of those rides. It's just that I think this is kind of a common trend with the 2016 ride class. We talked about it before the show. I think 2016 is a lot of rides that we know are going to be good rides and they're going to be fun rides, but they're all safe rides. Like, they're all things we've I've kind of done that already. It's like when they built King Knott 2 years after Top Thrill Dragster. It's like, well, would you get excited if they built a 480-foot launch coaster that went 132 miles an hour? It's like, well, I've kind of done that already. With Mako, it's a really good case of, well, we've kind of done that already. Yes, it's going to be a good ride. Yes, it's going to be a fun ride. Yes, it's going to have some good floater airtime. We know what to expect, and we know it's going to have some good speed. It's going to be smooth, and knowing SeaWorld, they'll probably do a really nice job with the station and the queue and this new Shark's Realm area that's going to be surrounding it. I think that's what it was tentatively called. But at the same time, it's kind of, there's really nothing outside of the box with Mako. So I think that's kind of what we're looking at right now, and I think that's why it's kind of just sitting where it is, at number 9 here on our combined list. I try and get to Florida every year, so I'll probably get to it at some point, because I didn't actually go in 2015, because I haven't gone since I went to IAPA. That was kind of 2015. It was end of 2014, but I didn't really go this year. So, we'll see. I'll probably get down there to ride at some point after it opens. We'll see. But interesting fact: neither you or I think it's going to be the best new ride in the state of Florida.
No.
So,
no.
And we'll get to that in a little bit.
And I love to see how much you love Manta so much that you made a special trip for it this year. At number 8, we have the Justice League ride opening up, and we actually voted the one in Chicago at number 8, not the one in Mexico, although there's a good possibility that I might be riding both of those next year. So I might be able to get on.
Yeah, we talked about this a little bit.
Yeah, I might actually be taking a trip down to Mexico next year. Or excuse me, next summer, I should say. So I'm excited about this Battle for Metropolis. Obviously, I'm going to get on this at some point during the year. I know it's had its issues in Texas, with its reliability. But I'm really excited about Battle for Metropolis, just because I think it looks like an awesome ride, and now I'm actually going to be able to ride it. That I'm at Great America a whole lot during the summer. This year probably more so than any other year, because my sister actually just moved about 10 minutes away from the park. So So I think I'll be going to Great America a few more times this season. So definitely I will be on this ride at some point during the year, probably multiple times. So I'm going to get a real good feel for it. So I'm pretty excited by that. But I completely agree with your sentiments as well that, it's hard to get excited for this when you kind of think it's going to be placed in a park near you. There's really no reason to travel.
And for you, it's happening.
Yeah, for me, it's happening. There's no real reason for someone to travel to Texas or Chicago or St. Louis, to go ride this because is probably going to end up at a park near you pretty soon.
Well, and you said this at some point during a show last year, where now if Great America comes out with a dark ride that's different than Battle for Metropolis, then I kind of have to go to St. Louis. Because that's the next closest one to you, and then you got to do Justice League. If they did like a Batman versus Superman or something completely different at Great America, then you would be more inclined to go to St. Louis. But now you don't have to make a special trip to St. Louis, so Six Flags losing a little money on that right there.
I'll be honest with you, I'm actually really shocked that this is the same ride type as the two we've already seen, being that St. Louis and Chicago have a large overlap between guests, that a lot of people from Chicago go down to St. Louis, a lot of people from St. Louis come up to Chicago. So they're going to be riding essentially the same ride. I think a Batman versus Superman ride would have been immensely better, but I think timing hurt them on this one because Batman Superman doesn't come out till later in the summer. So you couldn't open up the ride before the movie comes out because you'd spoil plot lines, And you wonder about the internal politics here, because Batman Superman was initially supposed to be released in May. And then Captain America was announced, and Marvel's like, we aren't moving our movie, so you can just be on your happy way, DC, and move your movie. So they moved it into later into the summer. So you wonder, at some point, was there an idea out there to maybe make this a Batman versus Superman? And when that movie got pushed back,
we might have a better answer in 2017.
Well, maybe where we see the next park, maybe they will get a completely new one. And I don't discount that at all. I think that would be awesome. I think having 4 Justice League rides is quite enough. And I think if you moved into a different theme like Batman versus Superman, you might actually have a really cool way to get people excited about that again. We'll see what happens. But I'm excited to be going out to Justice League. Number 7, getting back to the roller coasters, is Storm Chaser down at Kentucky Kingdom. What are your thoughts on this one?
Storm Chaser is, I think you and I said initially when it first came out, it's kind of like, I don't know about this one, because I think we've seen it, we saw it with Wicked Cyclone, and you definitely found it to be true with Wicked Cyclone. I didn't find it as much to be true, but the smaller RMCs tend to lose momentum pretty quickly. And, Wicked Cyclone, it certainly does. And it kind of depends. That's kind of a hit-or-miss ride. If you ride it in the front, you kind of get that feeling of speed a little bit more with the wind in your face. But in the back, you can tell it slows down at the end. And Storm Chaser is, I think, smaller yet. So, it's going to be interesting to see if it has a lot of good momentum at the end, like the rendering says it will. I don't know. We'll see. It has the potential to be a really exciting ride in a small package, but it also has the potential to maybe not do so hot. We'll see. I hope that it feels different enough from Lightning Run as well, because we have Alan Schilke doing 2 rides in the same park, very close to each other, and I hope that it doesn't feel like it's just another Lightning Run that maybe goes upside down a couple times. So I don't know. We'll see. Storm Chaser, I think, is another one where you could go with that cautiously optimistic terminology. Now, we're seeing that crazy barrel roll first drop type of thing that Medieval Coaster has there in Mexico. But I think once we start seeing test runs, we'll see just how well this thing might perform. This is one that could end up being the sleeper hit, or it could be an absolute dud, I think.
Yeah, I'm not, people love Lightning Run, and I think both of us had a fairly similar opinion of what are they thinking. It's a nice ride.
Good,
it's a fun ride.
It wasn't a top 5 ride like some people said.
Yeah, it didn't do it for me. And then I get the feeling that Kentucky Kingdom is going to fall into this, feeling the same way. People complain about, oh, you can't put, all these rides in the same park that have the same types of stats. And I feel that Kentucky Kingdom's kind of going that road of the small is better, fill it with more rides at a smaller price tag. I don't know how long that's going to work. Yeah, it's going to be attractive for that market. And if that's all they're going for, that's going to work for them. If they're going for attracting locals to the park, it's going to work. However, if they want to become a larger regional park, and there's a lot of competition in that region, I don't know if that's the route to go. We've seen, parks nearby like Holiday World really start to diversify themselves. That, Holiday World was known as a water park, wood coaster park. With Thunderbird, they have broken out of that mold, and they are now a diversified park. And I think Holiday World, you're going to see that even more as we move into the future. We still don't know what Holiday World is doing with the Legend. That we know that new elements are being placed on that ride. There's a lot of speculation out there, too much speculation to even speculate ourselves, ranging from, a tunnel being placed onto it, putting inversions on it. There's some crazy wild ideas out there. I hope not either. But they're doing something with the Legend. But I just don't know how Kentucky Kingdom is going to survive on the model that they're using. We went last year. I think we enjoyed ourselves for the few hours that we were there, and we left.
Yeah, it was okay.
It's not a park that I'm currently recommending people have to go to. Maybe Storm Chaser changes that. Maybe Storm Chaser is a legit ride that carries its speed throughout the whole ride, and really is a world beater. Who knows? We don't know yet. Like you said, I don't know if I'm cautiously optimistic. I'm cautiously pessimistic about that after having experienced Lightning Run. And being kind of let down by that at all. Number 6 is one that I'm really hopeful for, because I love the old version, and I think I'm going to love the new version even more, and that's Ghost Rider at Knott's Berry. I absolutely love Ghost Rider. I rode Ghost Rider New Year's Day in 2011, and I absolutely love the hell out of Ghost Rider. So with them changing it now to make it even better, I think it's going to be an even more fantastic ride, and probably going to be a legit top 10 Woody amongst many riders. What do you think about Ghost Rider?
Yeah, I mean, Ghost Rider, I rode it shortly after it opened as a kid, and then rode it again in 2012, and I rode it again back in June. Rode it in the front seat, thought it was pretty good. Rode it in the back seat at night, and holy crap, what a ride. I mean, it beats you up a little bit, and that's why they're doing the retracking, but that thing is just amazing. And when you think about they're doing the retracking, the reprofiling, and to smooth it out, make it the great coaster, no pun intended, make it the great coaster it was when it first opened, they're going to put Millennium Flyer trains on it so that it doesn't beat itself up. And then they're going to take away that mid-course block brake, and you're going to go flying through that. And that second half is the second half is really where the second half is where that ride really was out of control when it first opened, and it was kind of a little tamer once they started turning the brakes on there to slow it down to keep it from beating itself up. That second half is going to be wild with those new trains, and the first half is going to be just as good, if not better, with the retracking. So, Ghost Rider, and some people might, come after us for putting this on here, and we kind of debated whether or not we wanted to count this as a new ride, because at the end of the day, it may not really be something we count as new credit if it's just retracking and new trains, because, it's not changing the experience. It's not like Mantis to Rougarou where there's some sort of, you have some sort of argument that, you may justify it being a different enough experience, but here you're in the same position. It's going to be the same track, we think. It's just going to be a little smoother. This is one that Andy and we both said, yeah, we're excited for this. So we put this on here, not so much because we're considering it a new ride, but because we think big enough deal that it should be talked about. So I'm excited to see because I think Ghost Rider could make a return to a lot of top 10 lists after this is all done.
Yeah, for sure. Number 5 is one that I'm super excited for. You probably aren't going to get out there again this year. There's a good possibility that might be going to see this open, and that is Harry Potter World out at Universal Hollywood.
Yes.
I'll tell you what. When I was there for Halloween Horror Nights, it had already it's pretty much been built. It looks pretty fantastic, and the thought that the whole West Coast is going to be able to experience this as well, and they're kind of like fixing some of the problems that they had.
Digital HD too.
Yes, the Forbidden Journey ride in particular is going 3D digital HD, so it's going to be a much improved experience because a lot of people have criticized the Forbidden Journey down in Orlando.
Once they revamped Spider-Man and opened Transformers, it was like, well, that looks great, but now Harry Potter looks like crap because it's the old technology. Everyone was like, oh, Harry Potter's so clear, fix Spider-Man. They fixed Spider-Man, and then they're like, Potter kind of looks like crap now.
Yeah, exactly.
Well,
it's like, So they're going to fix all that.
Green Dots, too, looks amazing compared to Forbidden Journey, so maybe we'll see the revamp of Forbidden Journey in Florida soon, but Hollywood's getting a better version as of right now.
Yeah, and not only the ride, but they're fixing a lot of things down there. So you got the Forbidden Journey. In theory, you're going to have another little kids coaster being added as well. So I'm really excited about Harry Potter out in Hollywood. Just being able to get that experience and be able to experience the upgraded version of one of my favorite dark rides. And maybe it will finally settle that debate of which is better, Spider-Man, Harry Potter, Transformers. I've always said it's been neck and neck, but with the 3D version, that was one of the things holding it back was that the screens weren't as bright, didn't feel as real at those points. But now that they're fixing that, maybe it puts it right over the top back to number 1. It's got a shot for sure. So I'm excited about Harry Potter.
For sure. Number
4 is maybe the most controversial roller coaster on this list in the world today. That we see the park going crazy, giving us updates with construction and pictures of it being topped off just recently, and that is Valravn at Cedar Point. Man, this one, you want to divide a crowd. Hey, you want to have a great holiday discussion with your roller coaster friends? Just bring up Valravn, and you guys can be arguing for hours over something that really matters.
Or the Lake Erie Monster.
I'll be honest, I would have been a lot more excited if the name was actually Lake Erie Monster. I love the logo. I love the bird. It fits with what Cedar Point's always done of not having any real theme on anything. It's just a name. And it's funny. I started reading the Dick Kinzel book recently, and that's one of the points that Dick Kinzel always made was there's no reason to theme anything. Just give them. He said, for all that money that Disney spends on theming, I'll just put that money into making a bigger ride, and people will love it. Well, it kind of worked out for him too that way.
Here you go.
So Valravn, it's going to be a great ride, but hearkening back to what you had already said, it's kind of not that unique idea. It's people feel that they've already had these experiences. Yes, it's going to be slightly taller. It's going to be slightly faster. It's going to be in a much
it's a record breaker.
It's a record breaker. But we don't know how it's going to ride. However, the one thing that makes me happy about this is I love dive coasters. I love SheiKra. And so to have one at a park that I'm going to consistently go to multiple times a year, to have that experience right on my doorstep at what I consider to be my home park, that's what makes me excited about Valravn, is that I'm going to be able to ride the dive coaster over and over and over and over until I'm sick of it and don't want to ride it. And I think it's going to be a superior dive coaster, and you disagree with me on this point because it's going to have the vests. The vests are going to make it so much better. It's going to make it so much better. Well, I think you're crazy.
See, I think. See, here's the thing: the dive coasters have never been as more majestic than anything, and they have to be sort of like the wing coasters because they're so wide. They can't really do a lot of quick snapping elements like some of your inverted coasters or, the sit-down coasters or even the floorless coasters. The dive coasters have to move a little slower because of the outstretched train. You can't be putting, too high of forces on the people on the outer side. So because of that, the dive coasters haven't had some of the headbang. Now, they are a little newer, so maybe that's part of it. But they don't have the rattling that some of the other coasters, some of the other B&M coasters do. Maybe it's because the trains are heavier, too. I don't know. But I think I've never had the headbanging or the rattling been an issue on any of the dive coasters like they have been on some older coasters. And I think on that first drop, the fact that you have space between your shoulder and the harness, if you're a shorter person like me, I think that you're floating out of your feet a bit more, and you have some room between your thighs and the restraint as well, because they lock in different positions, and they have some give to them because they are mechanical locking devices. With the hydraulic devices, these things are going to be pushed down against your thighs and won't have any give, have any space between your thighs and the lap restraint, and then the vest is going to be against shoulders, so when you go down that first drop and you want to float out of your seat, rather than floating up and then hitting the restraint up here, you're going to be coming up and then hitting a vest, and you're just going to right up against the vest. Now, it's not going to be uncomfortable because it's a soft vest-like restraint. There's no doubt that it's at least going to be comfortable, I think. But I don't think you're going to get the floating sensation that you get on other dive coasters. So we said this with the Maverick restraint change. We were a little worried about that, and we found out that it wasn't too big a deal on Maverick. So maybe the same will be true here. I just hope that you still get that free-falling, floating sensation on the two drops that you get on the ones with the older restraints. I hope that sensation is still there, and if it is, and if it's the same feeling and it doesn't feel any different, and the vests are comfortable, which I'm sure they will, then non-issue for me. Valraven's going to be a great ride. I just hope that those vests don't take away from that floating sensation. That's my only concern, really.
I think that some of the best parts of the Wing Riders when they're unlocked, especially on Gatekeeper, are the inversions where it feels like you're falling out, where there's nothing holding you in, because the vest falls with you. So it feels like you're falling out, and I think that's going to be amped up even more on these on Valraven specifically, because that first drop, coming out of your seat, that's one thing, but I think you're falling forward, and it's going to feel like there's going to be nothing holding you in your seat. So I think it's going to be a whole new experience with the vest. I get what you're saying, but for me, the vest is always, I got pretty broad shoulders, so it's already, on my shoulders. So I'm not getting as much of that free fall as someone that's much smaller than me would be getting. So I could care less about that, but I do get a whole lot of movement on with the vest, so that makes me really happy. And really, at the end of the day, it's all about how I like the coaster. I could care less how anybody else likes the coaster. So
right. No, it's still going to be a great ride. So we'll see. It's probably not going to be nearly as big of a deal as I make it sound. I just hope it feels like the others, because if it does, it's going to be a great ride.
Yeah. Number 3 on the list may shock a few people because it is billed as a family coaster, and I just happen to be wearing this fine shirt today called Cobra's Curse that was supplied to me by my good friend Dason down at Tampa. He sent me one of these. He sent you one of these as well. So we both have Cobra's Curse gear already.
I was going to wear mine, but it's the same color, and I thought it would be a little bit too much turquoise overload for the show, so I went with the dark blue to kind of offset it. But yes, thank you, Dason, for sending us those wonderful, they're a neat looking shirts too. They say Cobra's Curse, you can kind of see there, and they got the snake with the crown coming up in between the O, so it's really neat looking, and it's on the other side there, buddy.
Yeah, sorry.
But it's a really neat looking shirt, and we're excited to talk about this ride, and I think it's because. Would you agree that now what you had it as number 3 on your list? I had it as number 2 because, like I said, I'll probably get down to Florida at some point to ride this, and I think I billed 2015 as the summer where I was officially sold on Mack rides. Now, we knew Mack rides did good things, and we knew that they made good rides. But this year, I rode Turbulence up at Adventureland in Long Island for the first time, which is a smaller spinning coaster of theirs. I re-rode Sierra Sidewinder for the first time in a while, which is a little bit bigger than Turbulence, a great spinning coaster. And I rode Manta at SeaWorld San Diego, which is a smaller version of like a Blue Fire or a Helix. So I finally got to experience that sort of train. So riding those rides this summer is kind of like where I'm like, okay, Mack rides is as good as people say. If these are their smaller rides, their bigger rides must be a lot better. And Cobra's Curse is going to be sort of a, no pun intended again here, a different spin on this family spinning coaster here. And it's going to be highly themed. It's going to have some bigger drops. It's going to be that, I said this last year, if we could get some bigger Mack rides over here, I think they'd have a larger presence. And I think that this is kind of the first step in that direction of Mack rides having a bigger presence over here in the States. And I'm excited because it's going to be a themed ride. It's supposed to have some sort of an indoor portion as well. And then it's going to have a nice outdoor portion where it looks like it's not just going to be like wild mouse turns. It's going to have drops. It's going to have hills. It's going to have turns. It's going to have your regular roller coaster elements. And for me, it kind of seems like it's sort of going to be like a Verbolten style. I think it's going to be in that. I think it's going to be in that category and in that genre. And I really like Verbolten. I know you do too. And I think it's one of those rides that doesn't get enough appreciation for being a great combination of a highly themed ride and a thrilling ride, but also keeping it in the family genre. And in the genre that my mom rode Verbolten last year, and she is, she gets motion sickness. She is not a roller coaster person, and we were able to get her on that, which, that was funny in its own right. But, there were some sound effects that were coming from the riders inside the building when the little surprise happened when they rode Verbolten. But this I think is going to be comparable to that, and I'm excited to see what Tampa does. And knowing that this could be a big step for Mack rides, and knowing how good Sierra Sidewinder and Turbulence and Manta are, it seems like we're kind of putting all those together and putting some high theming in with it. I think it's going to be really cool.
Yeah, for sure. I'm really excited, like you were, like for all the things that you just said, but especially the idea that Mack gets a bigger presence in America. If we could get something like Helix or Blue Fire over here, that would just blow the world up for the most part. And then the thought, I was going to bring up that too about it being a lot like Verbolten. I love the indoor portion of Verbolten. I think that's
it's awesome.
The outdoor portions get a little tame here and there. It's kind of like a falls and twists and turns. If you took an indoor portion like Verbolten and combined it with some of the images that we've seen from Cobra's Curse, from the models to the track already being built, it looks pretty intense. I know they're calling it a family coaster, but you wonder how family like this is going to be. We're kind of talking this up really big. Hopefully it delivers on that level of it kind of satisfies all of the people that want to ride it, because Cobra's Curse could be a pretty big deal for everyone. And that's why I think we have it collectively on our, at number 3 here.
It's looking like that family coaster that surprises the seasoned enthusiast as being pretty intense too. I think that's what we're going to see, because that's what Verbolten did.
Yeah, for sure. So I'm really excited about that one. Now, number 2 on our list is Joker out at Six Flags Discovery Kingdom, a place that, once again, you probably won't get to, but a place that, once again, I may be going out to sometime in June of this year. So I'm really excited about Joker, and I know a lot of people are, mainly because they're taking this GCI layout and putting an RMC track onto it. That they're changing a lot. Let's put that out there. That RMC is doing the traditional RMC things to the Joker, but they're leaving a lot of those GCI elements into it, especially for what we see being done to the first drop so far. I think Joker is going to be a really fantastic ride. I keep looking for RMC to get better and better. I still think Iron Rattler, some of their best work, and it was their second ride. Like I said, I wasn't a huge fan of Wicked Cyclone, but Joker looks like it could be that ride. And if I get to ride Joker and Medusa next year, supposedly that's the best of the best right there. So. Right. We'll see what happens, but I'm really excited for Joker. I love the colors. I love the name, although it's kind of weird. It's a little bit of a departure considering the park doesn't have a whole lot of superhero rides that they went right for the Joker. I think it's kind of cool though. So I'm really optimistic about the Joker, and I'm looking for RMC to really, in my book, make a comeback with this one.
Yeah, I think it has a little bit of a different feel than some of the other ones we've seen recently. It's going to be interesting. Like you said, since I did Northern California 2 years ago, probably not going to go back there in the next year or two. Maybe in 2 or 3 years I'll make my way back out there. But, this is going to be a good ride park because I think this park really lacked a signature coaster. I mean, Medusa is a good floorless coaster. The Superman Ultimate Flight launch coaster kind of got its name out there, but now that they're cloning that ride, people have kind of forgotten about it because it's not unique to that. It's not unique anymore, really, even though it was the original. A little bit of an altered impulse coaster, an SLC, a boomerang. So there's not a lot going on at that park that's really unique. But now that they have this with Joker, they're going to get their own coaster, all their own, that even though, it's an RMC conversion, it's going to be a very different one. It's going to be a more compact one than some of the others. I mean, Colossus was pretty spread out. Rattler is pretty spread out. Texas Giant, while it's contained within its own structure, it's pretty spread out. This one and Wicked Cyclone are very compact. So hopefully it takes hopefully, for me, I'm hoping it's similar to Wicked Cyclone, maybe even a little bit better. It looks like it has the potential to be even better. Hopefully the speed doesn't die out as quickly. We'll see. Again, that's kind of the big thing here with some of these conversions. Is it going to have the speed to carry through the entire layout? I think that's the biggest question with the smaller conversions. With rides like Iron Rattler, Colossus, it's not as big of a question mark when you have bigger rides like that. But we'll see what happens here with Joker. It has potential to be the best new ride of 2016.
Yeah, for sure. And so our number one then. Should be no shock to anyone here, I think. This one seems to be across the board people's most anticipated ride for 2016, and that is Lightning Rod out at Dollywood. People are losing their minds over this ride, seriously.
I know.
I think it's going to be good.
I would run out of fingers if I counted how many people have already proclaimed it as their number one wood coaster. So
seriously,
we won't get into that, but
it's kind of crazy though. It's like everyone is already crowning this ride. I think it's going to be a very good ride. I think it's going to use the terrain really well. I loved, and that's the thing about it, is I loved Outlaw Run, and a lot of people said, well, the problem with Outlaw Run it was so short. Well, they're fixing that problem. This is not. This is that problem solved. So Lightning Rod is really going to come in with a lot of high expectations, and the key is that it needs to live up to those expectations. Now, Danny Miller, we sat here last year, and we were proclaiming Wicked Cyclone as the best ride ever made. And we said that there's no way that this thing's not going to live up to what we think it's going to live up to. And it's not even ranked in my top 50. It's not even breaking my top 50. So hopefully Lightning Rod is not going to be a 2 for 2 on my list, where I think it's going to be the best ride of the year, and it just ends up falling flat on its face. Now, I don't know, because the problem in my book with RMCs, it's all about the speed. It needs to carry its speed throughout the course, and if it doesn't, to me, they get boring real quick when they don't. So, for instance, when Texas Giant dies at the end, I want to get off the ride. When Wicked Cyclone feels like it's going to valley at the end, I want to get off the ride.
You want to get off the ride.
If this thing doesn't carry its speed, there's a good chance that this is going to fall flat on its face, unless those first few elements are completely out of this world. I don't know. This one I am hopefully optimistic for. I think it's going to carry through. I think the launch elements will help it, and I think this might be the ride that people are correct about. I think it just might be that ride.
Well, and you think about it, you got to remember that it's not a lift hill. It's not coming off the top of that lift hill at 5 or 6 miles per hour. It's coming off the top of that hill at 40 miles per hour?
Yeah.
It's coming off. I mean, it's going as some people have been calling it, the Dolly Parton double-breasted drop there. Coming off the top of the hill there, the double hill there. It's coming off of that drop at a pretty good clip, and then goes into that overbanked wave turn that is like a supersized element from Outlaw Run. Then we see some high overbanks, which are similar to what you've seen on Iron Rattler on the top of the cliff. Then you have your double up, and then you have your quadruple down, and then you have this crazy non-inverting half loop turn, or whatever they're calling it, but they have that as your big finale. My question is, if they know they're going to have enough speed to get through that really high turn at the end, that's great. That means it's going to have a lot of speed, but then maybe should they have kept going a little bit more?
No.
Maybe they don't want it to die out at the end. Maybe they want it to hit the brakes with a lot of speed.
Yeah.
So we'll see. We'll see how it ends up doing. But the fact that they have a pretty tall element towards the end should be an indication that, yeah, they know they're going to have some pretty good speed throughout the entire ride. And this being a terrain ride, I think we'll see the same sort of thing that we see with Voyage and Boulder Dash and the other rides that hug the terrain pretty well, that maybe there's a higher sensation of speed there as well. So hopefully that's an Outlaw Run, too. Outlaw Run does a great job of that. So Lightning Rod was number 1 on my list, and it's number 1 on our collective list here. And I think I'm trying to put together some plan. I will get to Dollywood at some point this year. The question, I know Coaster Radio is doing a meetup on opening day. There is a Coaster Crew event on opening weekend there. So that's certainly an opportune time to go. It may be a little later in the year because if they maybe have some issues with the launch during testing, not open yet. So I'm a little leery of actually planning to go down there for that ahead of time. We'll see, but all indications right now are that Lightning Rod should be the winner for 2016 because it's really it's a little bit out of the box and a little bit of a proven formula. I think it's a good combination of something that we know works and is popular, and they went outside the box with the launch, and as Pete Owen said, it doesn't go upside down, it doesn't have to. So I think that's a good telltale sign that they know they have something good in this package already. So we'll see if it can live up to the hype. It's opening early, just months. Less than 3 months from now, it's going to be open. So or it's hopefully going to be open in less than 3 months from now. So we're not far away from finding out if Lightning Rod's going to step up to the plate.
Well, Danny, I think Dollywood is the spot that I think COASTER-net Uncut needs to have a big meetup as well. I'm not getting involved in the nonsense of opening day weekend. I'm not getting involved in all of that.
I don't know that that's something I want to get into.
We're gonna do this in the middle of the summer, so we don't have any hard plans yet. We don't have any things set in stone, and I do want to try and do another live episode of COASTER-net Uncut, and maybe
that may be the place to do it.
Maybe
and I think
Dollywood.
maybe we could talk to Pete Owens and maybe they could set us up to do something there. But I think that would be fun to do. And I was talking. We were actually when we went to see Star Wars yesterday, and I was talking with my aunt a little bit and said, we want to go to Dollywood. Maybe we could do it on like a long holiday weekend. Yeah, I know the park will be busy, but I could maybe have a day off from work that I'm paid for, and I don't have to take one of my vacation days. And maybe we could make a long weekend out of it. Other people are off from work, or if they're in school for the summer, maybe they don't have classes or something. So maybe we could pick a holiday weekend, whether it's Memorial Day or 4th of July, or maybe even something a little later. Maybe we can figure something out and get a good contingent to head to Pigeon Forge with us.
I can tell you it's not going to be 4th of July because I already got things scheduled for that week, for that time.
Well, okay, so it's not 4th of July. Okay, well, we'll figure something out, and we'll get everyone to Dollywood at some point, and I think that's the place where our next live show kind of has our on-location show to be.
I'm just throwing ideas out there, and I know we're kind of just shooting off the cuff here. Maybe a little Labor Day action might work. Like Labor Day, I'm back in school.
Labor Day could work as well. That tends to be a little slower down there.
Yeah, so. and that's a weekend that I'm always looking for something to do, that I want to do something, and maybe that's the weekend. Maybe it's Labor Day. I don't know. It's still out there. It's still up in the air. We still don't know. But I can wait to ride Lightning
Well, we'd love
Rod.
to hear from people as to when they're planning on going to Dollywood. If they're not going yet, when they would like to plan to go to Dollywood. Maybe we can get a group there and we'll do a live show. It could be like when you see Mike and Mike on ESPN at 6 a.m. in the morning at the Super Bowl, and there's thousands of rabid fans behind them. That's what we wanted. 6 a.m. in Dollywood. We'll have everybody behind us, and you can hold up all your signs, and Manta is number 1, and Raptor sucks, and all those big signs that are in the background. And
I don't think we'll see any of those.
And you can put on the Valraven helmet, and like a week or so.
Oh man!
Coaster Game Day Live.
Well, I think that wraps us up here for tonight. Like I said, to look at this grouping, overall, I think there's a lot of things to be excited for here. But maybe not truly unique stuff. I don't think this class is going to rank very highly. When all is said and done, in the new coaster classes, but you know what? I think there's a lot to still be excited for here. That I think it's rounding out collections, it's filling up collections, it's giving us new experiences, and who knows? Maybe a lot of these rides are gonna overperform, and really knock our socks off. We don't know. There's a lot of question marks out there too. A lot of cool new concepts as well. Maybe this is a class we'll be talking about in the future and be like, hey, we didn't think much coming in, but man, did they overperform and really show us something. Any final thoughts from you this evening?
No, I mean, pretty much all I would say is, I think we've been harping on it pretty much for the last hour or so, hour and change, that this is a class that has a lot of good rides, maybe not so much unique and out-of-the-box rides and, out there and innovative rides as much as we've seen in the past few years. But we certainly have a decent collection of rides and a good collection of rides coming. So, as they start to open and as you guys start to ride them, we certainly want to hear what your opinions are as well, because as Andy and I ride a lot of these, and, we said between the two of us, we should cover most of these. And there's several that probably both of us will ride, maybe even ride together, and maybe even ride with some of you folks. So I think we're going to cover a lot of bases this year. When it comes down to riding a lot of these new rides. So we'll be interested in hearing what you guys have to say as well, and we'll certainly be talking about those rides as we visit them.
So thank you once again for joining us here on COASTER-net Uncut. It's going to be a great year. 2015 was amazing. Let's make 2016 even better. As always, I'm Andy Robarchuk from Chicago, Illinois.
And I'm Danny Miller from Schnecksville, Pennsylvania.
And as always, ride on, Ride Warriors.
See you next time, guys.